Okay, that's it.
Okay, so Mike, I can't see Anna, just for information, on my...
I'm here, you just have to move your thing along, Mummy, so
Move your thing along. Okay.
As in, like, there's lots of people here, it's fine.
Okay, great. So welcome to this Bshvat cooking session. As I've indicated, this is the result of some enthusiasm by me rather than perhaps great skill, but you'll find out in due course. What I'm proposing to do is to make the date, apple and walnut pudding. There will be an adaptation because I'm going to be adding some raisins because they are one of the 7 species from the land. And I'm going to get that on first without too much further discussion because it takes 40 minutes to cook. Okay. So what I've done so far is I've mixed together the dry ingredients. That's the flour, which is of course from wheat, which is one of the 7 species. Also the sugar, the baking powder and the cinnamon. I've also pre-whisked the yolks, the oil and the milk, and I've whipped the egg whites. Okay, so I'm just going to bring the whites up to perfect stiffness and then I'm going to assemble. Okay. Okay, so hopefully, yeah. So there's 3 egg whites. Okay, so I'm going to add the yolk mixture to the dry stuff and give that a bit of a mix. Okay, and that now looks a bit like breadcrumbs, if you can see, yeah? And then I'm going to fold in the egg whites. Trying, of course, not to lose the lovely stiff egg white that is going to lift this date, apple, raisin and walnut mixture. Okay, so that's done. If you can see, it's nice and soft now. And I'm going to add the pre-chopped apple. Okay, so lots of apple. So that's all going in, as you can see. And with it, the pre-chopped medjool dates, again, one of the 7 species, and a few rather nice flame raisins. Okay, not to mention the walnuts, which I'm going to crunch in my hands to break them up.
I did that as well. I crunch through my hand.
Okay, so that's all given a good old mix, which I hope you can see. Okay, and this is the kind of consistency. It's an awful lot of fruit relative to the amount of pudding. So I've taken a 2-inch deep, 9-inch baking dish that has a removable base, and I'm going to put that in there. Okay. And I'm going to give it a bit of a shimmy to level it off, okay? And there it is. Yeah, I hope you can see it. Yeah, good. Right, I'm going to put that in the oven straight away. And while that's cooking, we can make the other stuff and talk. So what I wanted to do was now talk a little bit about Tu Bshvat. So in the introductory piece, it refers to the fact that Tu is from the Hebrew letter Tet, which is 9, and the U is the Vav, which is 6. So the question was, why on earth do we have 9 and 6 for 15th of Shvat? Why don't we have 10 plus 5? Does anybody know? Apart from Anna. Okay. Okay. So, hi, Sharon. So the reason is because if you took 10 plus 5, 10 is Yud, and 5 is Hey, and Yud Hey is God's name. And of course, as Jews, we do not take God's name in vain. Hence, we don't use 10 and 5, we use 9 and 6. Simple, isn't it? So, Tu Bshvat.
You also don't do it for Yud and Vav as well.
Do you want to explain why?
It's the same thing, because same way you can't say Yud Hey, you can't say Yud Vav because it's Yud Hey Vav.
Okay. So another thing I wanted to point out is the 15th of Shvat. You'll know from lots and lots of other festivals that fall on the 15th of the month. So you've got Pesach on the 15th of Nisan, 15th of Tishri is Sukkot. If anybody can think of any others from the 15th, please say.
Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av.
Yeah, but we don't celebrate Tu B'Av so much. Okay. So the reason the 15th of the month is so important is because if anybody had a nice, clear, non-cloudy view last night, you would have seen that there was a full moon. It's halfway through the Hebrew month, 28, 29 days, and we are a lunar solar calendar people. So the full moon is terribly important, and that's why it keeps featuring in the calendar with the festivals we celebrate. Okay. So I wanted to talk about which are the 7 species of fruits and cereals that we associate with the land of Israel. So I apologize if people know, and I'm teaching people to suck eggs, but I'll just do a revision course. Okay, so there's 2 grains. There's wheat and barley. And then there's fruits, that's date, fig, grapes and pomegranate, and olives, which of course gives oil as well as a vegetable. And they're referred to in Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 8. Those are the products of the land. And when I was thinking about doing something for Tu Bshvat, I thought I would link it with the products of the land. Now, you will know, because you have had the recipes, that one of the recipes the fig one, fig and onion and cheese one, comes from the recipe book called Palestine, which how many of you have got an Otto Lengi cookbook? Hands up, hands up. Otto Lengi cookbook? Okay, so this Palestine is by his partner, who is a Palestinian. So this is the complementary book that came out last July, I think, that uses similar products, but links it back to the Palestinian narrative. Okay, so we're talking about the land, not who owns it. So I want to avoid any type of politics, but except to say that in thinking about recipes, it feels appropriate to use a recipe that is from a different tradition, but from the same land. So what I'm going to do without further ado is say, right, well, we've used wheat, we've used raisins, and we've used dates. So we've done 3 of the 7 species, okay? The next one I want to do is the one from the book that I just referred to, Palestine, okay? And it's the roasted fig recipe. Now, like the Otto Lengi recipe book, it is very detailed in how you do everything. I am going to be cutting corners, okay? For example, I did not use pomegranate molasses in the dressing. I'll tell you what I used. I used boiled down orange juice and brown sugar with a little bit of golden syrup. So there was the sharpness, the brownness, but also the sweetness. Okay, and you know, by all means find pomegranate molasses, feel free, but I don't think I'd have a great deal of use for it, so I ad-libbed. Okay, so what I've got here, because it was going to take a very long time to get these things cooked, I have pre-cooked 2 things. First of all, the onions, okay, red onions that have been covered in the dressing that started its life looking like this, okay, and it's got all the lovely garlicky, pomegranate molasses type, honey, olive oil and balsamic vinegar in it. Okay, so they were marinated in that before they were baked, and in addition I also baked the figs. Okay, so that's 12 figs, and I
was that by chance it was the 12 figs?
No, it says 12 figs.
Oh, it says 12 figs.
And each packet that I got from Sainsbury's had 6 figs in them, as it happens, from Mexico. Okay,
in season at the moment? No,
they're not in season at the moment in this country. Some fig trees have got little hard green figs on them. I saw some in a friend's garden over the weekend. Okay, figs are not maturing in the middle of winter in England. Okay, they mature around September in England and July, August in the Mediterranean. Okay, so here is a cute half of a fig that's been marinated and roasted. I have never roasted a fig in my life before. I've tasted it, it's delicious. Okay, what we're going to do is take a bowl add some salad leaves. Some radicchio. Some figs. I must tell you, it smells gorgeous. This dressing is lovely. We're going to add some of the onions. Okay, this is what it's starting to look like. We're going to take some of the goat's cheese, which I'm going to chop into bits. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same again. More leaves. Including some fresh mint. So you can just begin to imagine what this is smelling like with the fresh mint, that lovely marinade, the sort of burnt smell of the onions from the oven. Okay. Now I'm going to add the rest of the figs and the rest of the onion, the rest of the cheese, okay, and this was the rest of the marinade. Okay, so that's going on as well. With a little lemon juice. And again, you can imagine the smell of fresh lemon, mint, and all the other smells. It is a real smell of freshness, of springtime. And that is the finished salad. Now, I don't know about you, but I think if I walked into a shop and they had that, I think I'd be quite enthusiastic. Okay, it's unusual. It's got real body. It's got the intensity of the vegetables that have been in the oven, and therefore they've got far more strength of flavor. Okay, so time to look again at Tu Bshvat. So so we've already covered the raisins, the dates, the wheat. Okay, so at this time we've covered the figs. Okay, so we've got a few products left to include barley, olives, and pomegranate. So you can guess that the next dish has got those in it. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about some rules about trees and sacrifices, because we can't really think about Tu B'Shvat without thinking about these plants in the land. Maybe some of you know this, but any fruit tree cannot be, you can't eat the fruit of a tree within the first 3 years after planting. Did you know this? I mean, hands up if you knew this. Nobody? Yeah, one? Okay. So that's the first rule. Okay, so it must have been very, very special, and is very special, when you get that first harvest. But you're not entitled to just launch straight into eating, because as you probably remember, the 7th year, you're not allowed to eat the produce at all. That's the Shemitah year. So you've got the 1st, 2nd, and 4th and 5th years when you were expected to take what was called Maser Sheni, and that was the
This is the cycle. This is not the cycle of the trees. This is a cycle that's it's independent of when the trees were planted. This is a cycle that extends for always. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not.
It's to do with the Shemitah.
The Shemitah year, but it's not like it's not connected when the trees are planted. It's an independent thing. And the 4th year, you have to take a sacrifice to the Beis Hamikdash. By the way, you can't just eat on the 4th year either.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So you've got almost every year you've got to give 10%. Okay. You remember Jacob on his way when he saw the ladder, and afterwards he said, listen, if you look after me, I will give 10% to you, God. This is the 10%. I wanted to just mention those people who grew up either going to a Jewish school or a cheder. You perhaps remember how Tu B'Shvat was celebrated. Do you have any recollection about what happened? Nobody? Okay. I remember in cheder, we used to get this box from the JNF, a bit like the JNF money boxes, but it was cardboard. And in it were peanuts in their shells and an orange from Israel. Okay, so that was how that was done. The idea of the Tu B'Shvat Seder is only from the 1980s, and it originated, as you probably know, in America, and then it was taken up in Israel, and so was the environmental idea, the connection of linking Tu B'Shvat with.
I think it's a Hasidic thing, actually. I think it was maybe readopted, but it originally is a Hasidic thing.
There was that, but the Tu B'Shvat Seder kicked off in the 1980s.
No, I just Googled the Kabbalist of Tzfat in the 16th century already had a Tu B'Shvat Seder.
Read about the 20 species, yes. What I would like to do now is the 3rd dish. Hopefully our date pudding is cooking away nicely. Maybe we'll have a look at it, see how it's coming on. Can you see? Yeah, okay. So it's setting nicely. Okay, so the third and final dish is the one that uses barley, pomegranate, and olive. Okay. Now, I happen to have a pomegranate here, whole. I was astounded at the fact that there were 2 supermarkets in Arnold, Nottingham, where I could find a pomegranate. So anyway, I've banged the pomegranate rigorously with a rolling pin to loosen the seeds. Reputedly, there are 613 seeds inside the pomegranate. And I want to see if we can get some of these seeds out. So there we are, that's that. So I'm going to over the sink because it makes a huge mess. See what I can get out of this. Has anybody tried de-seeding pomegranates?
I mean, what's your method?
The method is banging it with the rolling pin, then cutting it in half, and then using my fingers in the sink to pull it out without the horrible bitter white stuff.
I take the back of a spoon and I bang it with the back of a spoon.
Okay.
It spritzes a lot.
It does a lot. Yeah, it's true. Anyway,
practice makes you better.
Sorry?
The more you practice, the better it gets. Doesn't take much time.
I buy them ready in a packet from the
Well, you don't always find them in a packet, so
Okay.
it's soothing to do.
Yeah. Well, it's very therapeutic and it's coming very nicely.
Preparation, I did one last night.
Oh, did you? Okay, that's nice. Oh, lovely. Good. Well, I've nearly finished half. So that's half of 613. I haven't counted all the bits. Okay. By the way, I'm sure you know, but the bells on the Sefer Torah are called rimonim, and that means pomegranates.
You know what else is called a rimon?
Yeah, wasn't it something to do with the military?
A grenade.
Yeah, thank you. I knew it was something to do with the military. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I have managed in the time that we've been speaking to reduce half a pomegranate to nothing, and I have got lots of pomegranate seeds. Okay, so it can be done. And that's that. Now, what we're going to do next is I'm going to fry some garlic in olive oil. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do as I do it. Okay, so while that's heating up, I'll just explain. The idea is that the strong garlic flavor is going to infuse itself into what really is quite mundane barley, which I've pre-cooked. Now I could have done the garlic, added the barley, and then added the water and cooked it. But since it takes an hour to cook barley, we will be sitting here for a very, very long time. So I adopted a policy of pre-cooking the barley. Now, when I was doing some preparation for something that I called the ancient Hebrew kitchen, I learned something fascinating about the difference between barley and wheat. I've never been a farmer, and I don't really grow much in the way of vegetables. I kind of do herbs and flowers, really. So I learned that barley matures at least a month before wheat, and that It's much easier to grow. It doesn't need the same amount of water and light. It's far more tolerant, and you can plant it far more shallowly. So I can see exactly why, if I was in a land that had erratic water, why it might be highly desirable to have a product like barley. And of course, barley grows in Scotland, which, as we know, doesn't have gentle weather necessarily. Anyway, the garlic is busy browning in the olive oil, which I'm just topping up. And I'm going to add to the pan the pre-cooked barley. This was just 100 grams of barley. Do any of you use barley in your cooking generally? Yes, Michelle is nodding. Yeah, and so is Catherine. Yeah, barley goes a long way, doesn't it? I mean, it really is one of those foods that, you buy a pack of pulled barley and it lasts quite a while, unless you've got a big family, I suppose, and you're cooking it all the time. It also keeps its heat, so it's kind of useful as a grain. Anyway. So the barley is now in the pan with the garlic. And while that's heating up, I'm just going to chop up some parsley to add to it. So nobody has made these recipes themselves. Okay. It's really a pity that you can't be here to smell the smell of the garlic cooking in the olive oil. It's really, really a good smell. Okay. So
I was going to do the pudding, but I'm going to do that tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope it works out well. I think it's going to be ready to come out in the next 5 to 10 minutes by the looks of things. Okay. So
Yes.
I'm now going to add the chopped olives to the barley and the garlic. I'm also adding the lemon juice and the grated lemon. Right, okay. So what we're going to do is, this is how it looks just at the moment, okay? So I'm going to put this on a plate. I'm going to add the pomegranate seeds. And the parsley. little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And there it is, okay? A nice, nutritious, warm.
Looks amazing.
Who said that? Whoever said it, thank you.
Your daughter said it.
Oh, right, thank you. Okay, so thanks, Mike. So time to check the oven again. Okay, I think this time it's set. And there is the date pudding, courtesy of the Women's Institute. Okay, the Women's Institute whose recipes are straightforward, unfussy, tried and tested, and they don't go wrong. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is put all the 3 dishes out and you can see them all together. Okay, and between them they have the 7 species in them. Okay, so okay, so you have the date dish, the barley dish, and the goat's cheese, fig, and red onion dish. Okay.
All looks delicious.
Well, I'm going to be having it for supper, so.
Yeah.
So, Mike, can you unmute everybody, or maybe people would like to unmute themselves?
Yes. Thank you very much. It was fascinating.
Thanks.
Yes.